So this one's gonna be the next one about Mindwise. It's a book, I think it is a pretty cool book with eye-opening things, and it's very, maybe philosophical if you will, but I still think it is a cool one. It's the second episode, so I've already recorded one, and yeah, I'm gonna see you the next time. Or just actually to be said, like after the intro. And yeah, very sorry. I'm very sorry that there is no sound in terms of the intro. But it is what it is sometimes, sometimes it just is what it is. Just sometimes. Sometimes it is what it is. Well, yeah, we're gonna go ahead. And I think that I've also found the right anchor there where we have to start, which is tappers, which I've then looked up and seems to be like just someone that is measuring something or somehow, or has the honor to just say something, decide something, do something, whatnot. So tappers estimated that listeners would identify the song correctly on average 50% of the time. I mean, I would have also guessed that it is quite a high number, but it turns out that in fact, listeners guessed correctly only 2.5% of the time, which is really not a lot, which is 2 times out of 100. 100 songs, just 2.5 times. So it's not good. It's not good. The lens problem affects anyone who has unique knowledge of anything. The boss who understands a proposal inside out and is trying to convey the ideas to new clients. The inventor who knows precisely why her invention is so important, speaking to impatient venture capitalists. Or the coworker who is just teasing a new hire who knows nothing of the teaser's friendly intentions. The expert's problem is assuming that what is so clear in his or her mind is more obvious to others. Yes, indeed. And this can really be a problem. Like if you're having an idea, then it is all about communication, and it's all about communicating that idea that you're having in your mind so that you can make sure that the possibility is quite high that the other person also understands it. And then to also understand it to a really high degree. Because first of all, just letting somebody understand something is the first thing, the first obstacle, but to just also let them understand it fully is just something else, I'd say. If this makes sense. I'm actually not quite sure, to be honest. But yeah. Consider how they would be judged by someone looking at their photograph. It's a little bit out of context. Knowing how you are seen through the eyes of others requires looking at yourself through the same lens that others do, which is a really, 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 really important, but a difficult thing to do. I would say, at least. I don't quite. Ambitious mediums like email and texting and Twitter are such fertile ground for misunderstanding. Yes. And I think it is not ambitious, but ambish. Equivocal or ambivalent, open to debate. Because this is also something. This is also one of the reasons why I just like the podcast per se, because I can really, really, really think about and talk about things in detail. But if I write something with 160 characters or just 320, whatever it might be, I don't actually know, then I just only have this amount of characters. And so it is very difficult to also just get across a point also in a way that people then understand it as well. Yeah, it's just difficult. Those actually receiving the message, however, could understand the speaker's intention only when the speaker was on the phone. They could hear the sarcasm dripping from their voice regardless of whether they were actually using their voice or typing with their fingers. Those receiving the message, of course, could hear the sarcasm only through the speaker's voice and heard nothing from the speaker's fingers. Yes. Therefore, writing as you're just talking might not always work, I guess. Even though it is always a good thing to do that, because we all talk in a very specific way. We all just have sentence structures that we like to use and all different sorts of things. So yeah, it is definitely then you if you just also write in the way you talk. But of course, you have to kind of maybe amplify it, maybe just add some things so that it also makes sense and whatnot, I guess, but it is something that Seth Godin said, that you should be writing as you talk. And I think it is a really good one. I think it is a really good advice, or it is really good advice. If God is a moral compass, I have skipped something. Believers might be even more egocentric when reasoning about God's belief than when reasoning about other people's beliefs. If God is a moral compass, then the compass seems prone to pointing believers in whatever direction they are already facing. Yes. Yes. Quite. Hmm. 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 Politicians politicians talk about what the people want, the speaker's own beliefs. It's actually a good one because as I think about it, like saying, okay, this is what the people want, but nobody kind of knows who is meant. Like, of course, unless it's just really what you want to have as well. But yeah, it is indeed just what the speaker wants. Like, or the possibility is pretty high that it is the case, or that it is somehow the same thing. Maybe not entirely, maybe not being that negative here, but probably to a really high degree. You can't judge another person until you have walked a mile in their shoes. You hear it so often because the advice is so routinely ignored. By the rich who judge the poor as lazy and incompetent, the sober who judge the addicted to be weak and immoral, and the happy who can't understand why the depressed don't just snap out of it. Quote unquote, snap out of it. Yes, indeed. Which is also one of the reasons why I think, empathy is good and whatnot, but really experiencing something, it is something different. And if you've really experienced like feeling unhappy, being an addict, and all those things, then you really can, I think, start helping people. I would argue, and also understand people first of all, and then help people second of all. Learn that someone is a member. I think, yes, I think I'm gonna highlight everything in the end as well, or just anyway. But yeah. Learn that someone is a member of a different group than you. You will drop egocentrism and pick up a stereotype to reason about that person's mind instead. Yeah, quite. Liberals favor a more equitable distribution than do conservatives, but by how much? The difference between Democratic and Republican presidential voters was only 3.5%, expecting a 40% gap between poor and rich, when the actual gap was only 3%. Think we often go just pretty high, isn't it? Seems to be the case. How your brain thinks of groups of anything. Instead of remembering exact details, you extract the gist. What is a gist? I don't know what a gist is. Is it the essence? Oh, kind of the nucleus, the core, central core of the information. The gist of a group is not its individual members, but rather its average. It's average. I just think when I'm just memorizing because of whatever reason, a bunch of dates, am I really gonna then just choose the thing that's in the middle, quite, or the average of it? I don't know. But I just also kind of try to figure out how I could just use this for my advantage or to my advantage, so that I, when I'm learning, can remember things more easily. Because I'm not, even though like something that I've figured out and something that I've seen is that, first of all, emotions is a pretty huge part. If you're happy, if you're feeling good, but also on the other hand, and you're learning something, then you're probably going to remember that really, really well. Which is probably also one of the reasons why I think it is also just something natural. Like if you, what the fuck? So I have apparently not started the recording. And I've been recording for like just 20 minutes or some shit. 10 minutes. Didn't happen to me before, but I'm gonna go through the things. I'm just gonna skip the intro and stuff. It's interesting, and it didn't really happen to me before. People tend to yeah, I've got that. There it is. Tappers estimate that listeners would identify the song correctly on average 50% of the time. It is a strange thing because I thought that I started the recording. Well, anyway. In fact, listeners guessed correctly only 2.5% of the time, which is interesting. The lens problem affects anyone who has unique knowledge of anything. The boss who understands a proposal inside out and is, or I could also do it in a different way. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead with the other things. Yes, I'm just gonna go ahead. There is gonna be like just 10 minutes of something in the beginning. I hope this is fine with you, but I do not want to go through it once again because I'm gonna go just about it quickly, and I'm gonna leave out quite a lot of things that I believe are quite important, so I'm not gonna do that. But where have I been? And also I'm gonna save a bit of time, I would say. But yeah. By the way, if you want to save time, you can. You just can. No matter what you think, you just can. I fortunately started the recording there. But I've also tried it out. Like, It's a strange thing. It really is strange. Women tended to think men would be more sexist than they actually were, exaggerating the differences between man and woman. When our stereotypes go wrong, getting too little information, defining groups by the differences, and being unable to observe the true causes of group differences directly. Yes, indeed. This is indeed when our stereotypes don't really work. And by the way, I should do this. Each of us views only a small slice of the world's people. Here's only haphazard bits of highly selected evidence from news outlets or other sources and talks to only a narrow group of generally like-minded friends. Probably. Stereotypes about majority groups also look to be more accurate than stereotypes about minority groups, simply because larger groups provide more observational evidence than smaller groups. Yes, indeed. Where do you go? I'm sorry. I don't know, in the last few days I've been yawning quite a bit during the day, which is something that never actually happens to me or never happened to me. When you go on a trip, much of your experience involves doing the same thing for long stretches of time. Flying, driving, sleeping, standing, waiting, walking. But the story you tell your friends afterwards is all about the different things you experienced. Yes, it is indeed the case. Like there's a lot of time. There's a lot of time that you're gonna spend walking. But of course, I could also say like I'm walking and I'm talking, but I'm walking, but I'm also just seeing things. I'm seeing the sculptures, I'm seeing the beautiful buildings, I'm seeing the culture. I notice the culture, I hear the language, I hear people speaking, and all those things. Like you could say that, you could, but yeah. You define yourself by the attributes that make you different. Yes. This is also a good one. A man who claims to be searching for himself is looking for a sense of distinction. What is distinction once again? Difference. Yeah. It's actually kind of the same as above, but I always when I'm reading something like this, I have to ask myself whether I'm doing this or whether it is kind of applicable to me and my life and how I think and what I do and whatnot. But I guess so, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I would, for example, define myself by me being a pretty sporty guy, which is indeed not something that everyone is. So there is a difference. And so if I'm searching for like a sense, if I'm searching for myself, then I would definitely go to those places. Yeah, this is interesting. This is indeed pretty interesting, really is. Consider the common stereotype that women are more emotional than men. Man and woman watching the same emotionally evocative scenes show the same emotional reactions on average of the same intensity. Where man and woman differ is in the outward expressions of their emotions, with women being more expressive than man. But when people watch these man and woman, they infer that women are feeling more emotion than man because they are showing more emotion than man. Yes. Even though I don't know, if you say like, okay, how can you tell? How can you tell that that it is the same? That the intensity is also the same. Of course, if you're not showing it, then you can't tell actually what the intensity is. But it's a really good point. It really is a good point, but it's just really difficult, I think, to validate that I think invalidate is the best word there. There are real differences in what man and woman want, but even larger similarities. Safety, love, touching the other gender, stuff like that. I think it's indeed a pretty similar thing. Those who write about gender are more attentive to differences than to similarities. Those who write about gender are more attentive. What does attentive mean? Yes. Even though I don't read a lot of gender stuff, I really don't. The differences, so I can tell. I really can't tell. I can't just validate that. I can't neglect it or deny that or some shit. But yeah, the differences among man and woman are far larger than the difference between the differences among man and woman are far larger than the differences between man and woman. You're always gonna find a man that is very, very similar to a woman. You're always gonna, not just in terms of like, okay, he acts like a woman and stuff like that, not necessarily that, but in terms of what you value, just because like the chance is way too high. I know that there might even be somebody on this planet that are thinking about things in the exact same fucking way as you're doing. The chance is way too high that it is not the case. We're 8 billion people at this point in time, I guess. I think at this point in time we should really be at 8 billion. Well, I don't know. Consider politics. People on opposing sides of each issue consistently assume that the other side is more extreme than it actually is. Really, real partisanship increased partly because of imagined partisanship on the other side. Israel and Egypt were disputing ownership of the Sinai Peninsula in 1976. Instead of fighting a zero-sum battle, the two sides came together and figured out each other's actual interests. Israel wanted security and Egypt wanted sovereignty. The Israelis didn't want the Sinai Peninsula, they just didn't want to be attacked from it. The solution reached at Camp David was to give the land back to Egypt, but to create a demilitarized band along the border. Israel got its safety and Egypt got its... Yeah. And I think it can often be the case like that. I know we can often find just a really, really, really indeed good decision. Also when it is just about, I don't know, you and your loved ones. Probably also going to be able to do that, I guess. Probably. When groups are defined by their differences, people think they have less in common with people of other races or faiths or gender than they actually do. Yeah, we all think about the same fucking shit. We all want to have safety, we all want to have love, we all want to have enough to drink and whatnot. We all are the same, quite. And this is a really indeed good point. Because if you think about it, there's no fucking way you can assume something different. Like, nobody likes racism. Like, I don't know. I'm white and I don't like racism. You know, if somebody is just black, he or she probably also doesn't like racism. So, yeah. I want to have water, they want to have water. I want to have just, I don't know, food, they want to have food. I want to have safety, they want to have safety. I want to have love, they want to have love. So, what's the point? I don't know, what's the point of racism? There's no point. Ignoring real group differences is every bit as mistakes as exaggerating them. Yes, I would say so as well. The elderly can behave differently than the young, blacks differently than whites, and women differently than men because of stereotypes about these groups rather than because of any inherent differences. Is it then like some sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy for entire groups? This could even be the case, I guess. The questioner asked difficult questions and therefore looked bright. The contestant answered incorrectly and therefore looked dim. This is the correspondence bias, inferring a mind that corresponds with observed actions. This is actually a really easy way to kind of let other people feel bad about themselves, I guess. Just ask them really difficult questions. But in a very specific setting, I gotta have to say, because, I mean, of course, I'm gonna ask a 3-year-old what the sum of 18 and 70,000 is. They are probably not gonna know that. And then I look pretty bright, you know, and they really dim. But what is the last one? This is the correspondence bias, inferring a mind that corresponds with observed actions. Common sense infers that the players are of unequal intellect rather than on an unequal playing field. This is interesting. This is interesting. I'm going to repeat it once again, and it's probably also going to be the last thing that I'm going to talk about today. Common sense infers that the players are of unequal intellect rather than on an unequal playing field. So you're dumb. It's not about This is a difficult one because, of course, we all have talents and we all have different strengths. So if you're not that good in a specific way, do you then just suddenly all of a sudden miss, I guess, common sense? No, not really. Because you're probably going to be better in a different way or in a different area. Yeah, I don't know. This is actually a really interesting thing. This is actually really the question now would be what common sense is defined of, or what the definition of common sense is. But yeah, anyway, I think I'm gonna end the episode there. I'm very sorry that the first 10 minutes or half of this episode is black, or maybe there is just some text and whatnot. But yeah, maybe I'm also gonna put some screenshots in so that you know what I'm talking about. I could do that. Well, yeah. Anyway, the question of the day is, what can you tell somebody of which you know, if this makes sense, that it's gonna make the person very happy? What could you say, and to whom, and why don't you do it? But yeah, this is gonna be the end. And I wish you the best health, happiness, and also success. And also hope that you're gonna remember something you're gonna remember. This basically means your legacy basically means just being a nice person and being remembered as a nice person. Which, leads to 3 questions actually. Why are you here? What are you trying to change? And what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions hopefully gonna show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea, which is a nice thing, which is a good thing. But yeah, hopefully gonna see you the next time. I really appreciate it and have to thank you for all the time, attention, and everything else besides that. And yeah, thank you very much, and I'm gonna see you the next time. Bye bye.